Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober takes place this weekend on the main card of UFC 259, Blachowicz versus Adesanya, and I can't wait to finally see the long-anticipated return of Islam Makhachev to the cage. He hasn't fought since September of 2019. That's a year and a half outside of the cage. I know he's made a lot of improvements, and it's finally time to see him show them off in his showcase bout against Drew Dober on the main card of 259. It's no secret who the UFC wants to win here. It's Islam Makhachev. This is a good stylistic matchup for him. However, those odds do not represent this fight whatsoever. Islam Makhachev should be a slight favourite over Drew Dober. I do agree that he's going to win this fight this weekend. I think he'll get the submission, and we'll get more into why I think that and what my prediction is overall later on in this video. But Drew Dober right now, let's just talk about the odds. They are ridiculous, the odds, okay? We just saw this with Makhachev versus Nikita Krylov. I don't understand what it is, okay? I know they're from Dagestan, but that does not mean you get to double and triple the odds that they should be. This is a very, very close fight, okay? I think Drew Dober is a very live dog and well worth the money to put some money on. I just don't think he's going to get it done against Islam Makhachev. I think Makhachev's wrestling is going to be a little bit too much, but God, those odds are ridiculous. And Drew Dober is a very dangerous contender here. On the bit of momentum right now, he beat Nasrat Haqparast, he beat Alexander Hernandez, both by TKO. Before that, Marco Polo Reyes as well. Not the best win in the world. And compared to Islam Makhachev's wins, it's kind of a bit like, you know, you don't really know what to say, because Alexander Hernandez recently lost to Thiago Moises, and Nasrat Haqparast, he beat Alex Munoz, but we really don't really know how good Nasrat Haqparast is going to go on to be. You've got guys like Arman Tsarukyan on Islam Makhachev's record, which now looks like a great win to have, because Arman Tsarukyan looks like he might go on to become a champion himself one day. I like this fight so much. Drew Dober's got a lot of momentum. He's very dangerous here, but I do believe that Islam Makhachev is going to make the difference up with his grappling here against Drew Dober. Dober has been controlled on the ground a lot of times before, and he's been taken down a lot of times before in fights, and I feel like the level of guys that he's been taken down to by before, I know one of them was Beneil Dariush, but I think Islam Makhachev can replicate what Beneil Dariush did, and I also feel like Islam Makhachev is a little bit better than the Alexander Hernandez's of the lightweight division. Alexander Hernandez was able to get Drew Dober down a couple of times. Now, don't get me wrong, Drew Dober got back up, but I feel like if Hernandez is able to get him down, then maybe Islam Makhachev could also get him down, and by the way, while he's there, control him in certain situations as well. We didn't see too many takedowns from Islam Makhachev's last opponent, or in his last fight against Davy Ramos. We didn't see any grappling until he caught Davy Ramos with a knee, I believe it was, as Davy Ramos closed in, eventually ended up on top, landed some good ground and pound in that third round. So I feel like not a lot of people have seen him shoot a takedown in a very long time, because he wasn't going to shoot a takedown on Davy Ramos, the jiu-jitsu guy. He wanted to wear him out a little bit on the feet, and he got clipped a couple of times in that fight by Davy Ramos, and he got clipped with a check hook, I believe, in the first round, sunk down to one knee for a second, but he took it well. We've seen him KO'd in his career before. I mean, Drew Dober can crack, and yeah, it's got some KO power, so I feel like there is a chance that maybe Makhachev gets caught on the chin early here. Who knows how he decides to play it out, but I feel like he will shoot for that takedown. We've seen that against previous opponents in his career. If they're not some wizard in jiu-jitsu like Davy Ramos, he will go to the ground with him. He shoots a lot of takedowns in his bouts. You mean, you see in a Davy Ramos fight, no takedown shot, or got, sorry, by Islam Makhachev. Didn't get any takedowns there. Don't really want any takedowns against Davy Ramos if you feel like you can do okay against him on the feet. And Islam Makhachev clearly outlanded him every single round, including knocking him down as well, and only attempted one single takedown in that fight. So he didn't really want to go to the ground. And you see against Arman Tsarukyan, he shot a lot of takedowns in that bout. You see against Cajun Johnson, got him to the ground, did whatever he wanted with him. You see this against Nick Lentz, 5 takedowns in that fight. Chris Wade, 4 takedowns in that fight. The only time he hasn't really got too many takedowns is where he's KO'd Gleason Tebow in the first round, or he's submitted Cajun Johnson off of his first ever takedown that he got on him. I do believe that Islam Makhachev is going to submit Drew Dober out there. Drew Dober is a very muscled up guy for the lightweight division, and he's very explosive as well, and I feel like on the feet he's going to be fighting in a desperate fashion. I don't think he has the time out there to be patient on the feet and like wait for Makhachev to come to him, because he knows that Makhachev is eventually going to want to take it to the ground, and I think that's going to happen at some point in the fight, and I think Drew Dober is aware that that's going to happen at some point in this fight as well, so he's going to try and make the most of the stand-up exchanges by trying to land something of significance in that round, whether it be securing a knockdown early and winning the round because of that, and then just staying alive in the grappling situations, or landing the more significant strikes on the feet and not taking any damage in the grappling situations and trying to win things that way. I think it's an inevitability that Drew Dober's going to get taken down, and he knows he kind of is as well. So I think on the feet he's going to be very headhunty and trying to make an impact with his shots while he's got that window of time on the feet. And I think against Islam Makhachev, he's going to get a little bit aggressive, try swinging some big shots. And listen, Islam Makhachev has been caught with some good shots before, but defensively, if he's in defense mode, he doesn't really get clipped too much. It's only when he's sort of trading with people that he gets clipped. Like Adriano Martin's caught him coming in a little bit and down he goes. I feel like when he's defensive and he's a massive guy and he controls range well and he knows where he can and can't be hit, he can sort of shell up away from Drew Dober's power shots, not be trading with him like a guy like Nasrat Haqparast was or Alexander Hernandez was, and every single time Drew Dober comes in swinging heavy for the head, trying to make something happen on the feet, I think Makhachev is going to dive underneath, get that takedown in the center of the cage, and just slowly wear on Drew Dober throughout the fight, and I think he will get the job done by submission here, softening up Drew Dober with big shots. I don't see him TKOing Drew Dober to ground and pound. We've seen Makhachev utilize great ground and pound in his fights. However, I think Drew Dober is just a little bit too tough to be ground and pounded out by Islam Makhachev, who hasn't shown crazy power in his career so far. I think Islam will soften him up with big shots, couple of elbows here and there from side control or something like this. Dober will roll over, Makhachev will take the back mount, and Dober will sort of eventually give up the rear naked choke finish in the third round, I'll call it. Definitely see something along those lines happening. Makhachev just got a little bit too much of a difference in the grappling situation. We've seen in Drew Dober's fights before that he's been able to be out-grappled, as I said, with Alexander Hernandez, got him down 3 times in that bout, and I know that he didn't control him there. But I just feel like if Hernandez can, Makhachev will, and he'll do better. You know, like Hernandez shot 5 takedowns against Drew Dober. He got 3 of them, and he controlled him for like a minute as well. So there was some control time there. And I think if just get into that situation as Alexander Hernandez, you'll be able to get to that situation as Islam Makhachev and do way more with it. And you see in other Drew Dober fights, as I said before, Beneil Dariush was able to get him to the ground and do some work there. We've seen Frank Camacho be able to take him down in his career. He's been taken down quite a little bit so far. He got an overturned guillotine choke to Leandro Silva, but again, Leandro Silva was taking him down, getting him in that position for a guillotine anyway. He's also been finished by a guillotine before in his career to Efrain Escudero, who caught him in a guillotine, and Olivier Aubin-Mercier was able to get him in a rear naked choke and work the grappling game on him a little bit. I just feel like the game plan has been written to beat Drew Dober, and I think that Makhachev and his team right now, all focusing on him, are going to know about that, and they're going to utilize the grappling here massively. Taking down Drew Dober, making him work, and I think Dober's just going to be sort of gassing out in the third round, give up his neck for the rear naked choke, and Makhachev will get a nice little rear naked choke finish in the third round. It is all on the line for him right now, and I'll tell you this as well. I'm going to get real honest here, okay? It's all on the line for AKA. People are not realizing this right now. DC's gone, okay? Rockhold, that chin sailed away a long time ago. That chin is no longer with us, okay? DC is gone. Khabib is gone. They kind of need Umar and Makhachev to go on and do well for them. Or who do they have? Daron Win? You know what I mean? Like, they don't really have anyone right now at AKA, so you better believe that their entire attention is all focused on Islam Makhachev and Umar Nurmagomedov right now, getting them these few wins to get them into those big money fight situations, because the winner of this bout coming up, if Makhachev wins, if Dober wins, you'll probably end up taking like a Thiago Moises fight outside the rankings, or the winner of Gregor Gillespie versus Brad Riddell, which is coming up soon as well. So that'll probably be the sort of scenario if Dober pulls off the upset here. But for Islam Makhachev, there's big fights on the line next. I think if Makhachev wins this one, I know DC said, I'll say this again, I know DC said that there could be a title fight on the line if Makhachev wins, which is just absolutely ridiculous. DC is just so pathetically biased in these situations. I can't believe it whatsoever. But, you know, Islam Makhachev, there's big fights on the line if he wins this one. I think there's about 2 fights left if he wins this one to get him towards that title shot. I think they'll give him a guy inside the top 5 or around the top 5, and I'll tell you who I think that's going to be in a second. Then I think they'll give him that title elimination bout against someone who's at the top of the division to get that title shot eventually. I do believe he will reach that level. I don't know if he'll get to the title shot, but I do believe he can win this one and sort of jump over, in my opinion, and beat the winner of Ferguson versus Kevin Lee 2, which I think is definitely a fight that they need to consider making, because it's got trash talk, it's got anticipation. We've got a pay-per-view coming up in May or June, and we don't really have any big names on there, so let's just chuck in, Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee in a rematch on that card. I want it to be made, and I want the winner of Makhachev Dober, if it's Makhachev, to take on the winner of Tony Ferguson Ferguson versus Kevin Lee 2 in a rematch. If it's Tony Ferguson, you get Islam Makhachev versus Tony Ferguson, the one guy Khabib didn't face, the boogeyman. And I know that we kind of understand at this point in their careers that Khabib would probably beat Tony Ferguson, most likely. But Makhachev versus Ferguson still has that anticipation, purely because there's going to be images of just Islam Makhachev in the cage, Khabib in the corner, and Tony Ferguson fighting Islam Makhachev. That is just such a perfect scenario for promotion of Islam Makhachev next. And if it's Kevin Lee who beats Tony Ferguson in a rematch, which I'll say this, judging off of Tony Ferguson's recent few performances, fuck, it hurts me to say that, man. How the mighty have fallen. It's so sad how that can just completely flip like that. And even judging by the Kevin Lee performance the first time, it's not unlikely to say that Kevin Lee's probably going to beat Tony Ferguson if they fight again. I know he's been out for a long time, but, you know, he had staph infection the first time. He was doing quite well. I reckon Kevin Lee probably would get the jump on Tony Ferguson at this point in their careers. You also have the Kevin Lee versus Islam Makhachev bout that was being spoken about for years. It's been ages since we've seen Makhachev or Kevin Lee in the cage. But to be honest with you, both of them have pretty much been on ice recently. I know Kevin Lee's been injured, but Makhachev's just couldn't really get to fights, got injured, didn't have a good weight cut, I believe, at one point, got ill during something. I don't even know what happened, but, you know, I want to see that fight eventually happen. And then if he wins that one, we can start looking at Dustin Poirier's, Justin Gaethje's, Michael Chandler's, Charles Oliveira's. Fights like this, I think that's going to be the limit for Islam Makhachev. I like Islam Makhachev. He hasn't really had the performances. People call out Oliveira for fighting the lower tier guys in the division, but he made them look like lower tier guys. Like, Charles Oliveira fought a lot of guys like the Jared Gordons, the Nick Lentz. Oliveira wasn't taking Nick Lentz to a unanimous decision like Islam Makhachev, okay? He was just destroying him. And I feel like there's a level of fighter where if they're rising up through your rankings, you don't just have to prove you can beat people. You have to prove that you could beat the next level above the person you're currently beating. And when you do everything by a 30-27 decision, and it's competitive, and you have that close fight with a young Arman Tsarukyan. I know Tsarukyan looks really good now, but you know, at the time, it's just a little bit of a different kind of... Islam Makhachev is not the level of Khabib. You know what I mean? Like, he's not ragdolling everyone. He's having some trouble. And there's some fights that are going, you know, he's getting dropped to one knee by Davey Ramos. That sort of stuff wasn't even happening to Khabib. I know people talk about, because Joe Rogan mentioned it and keeps mentioning it constantly, that Michael Johnson stung Khabib. Michael Johnson didn't sting Khabib. Michael Johnson caught Khabib with a shot he didn't see coming, and Khabib readjusted himself. And Joe Rogan acts like Khabib's eye socket caved in front of Michael Johnson. Like, I just don't understand. But you know what? Makhachev's really good. I just don't see the champion that everyone seems to be talking about, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure on him right now, and there's a good chance he loses, man, because you got to imagine every single thing we've heard or seen about Islam Makhachev recently, it's nothing to do with his own career or his own fights. All it is, basically, is everyone talking about how he's better than Khabib, he's going to do better than Khabib, he's going to be the next champion, we're going to make him the champion, and it's like, Makhachev is a human being. All of that pressure's got to be piling on. Dober is a live dog here, but I am going to go with Islam Makhachev. The grappling is just too much of a difference, you know? But the pressure is on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here. Drew Dober's a great fighter. I just think Makhachev's got the grappling in the bag. As I said, I think he's going to get the rear naked choke in the third round. Dober's going to be swinging heavy, and I think he's going to dive under those big shots, get himself the takedown, control Drew Dober, and Dober's just going to get more and more tired as the fight goes on. Because every single start of the round, I don't see Dober... It's one of the bad sides of not having that grappling base underneath you and being exploited in that area in previous fights and coming in against a great grappler like Makhachev, is that if you don't have that confidence that you can just shuck off any takedown that gets thrown your way, you can't just sit back and set up the jab and pump 1-2 and throw a bunch of feints and tap at the leg kick and then maybe a front kick to the body. You don't get that much luxury and pleasure and confidence on the feet when you've got a guy like Makhachev who you know is going to take you down in front of you. It's going to be a lot of swinging heavy. I'm trying to make an impact while I'm on my feet, because there's going to be a time in this fight when I'm not on my feet, and I want to do as much now as I can so that when I'm on my back, if I don't take a lot of ground and pound, I might be able to secure rounds this way. So I think that Dober's feet exchanges are going to be reckless, and dangerous, but Makhachev will shoot underneath him. It'll be like a Ronnie Lawrence fight if you watched him recently, in my opinion. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Makhachev, round 3, rear naked choke. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Winner of Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson 2 after this one for Makhachev, if he wins. Fingers crossed. Goodbye.